There was one time my friend sent me a photo. It was 4 Infinix phones, very closely priced apart. And I know the question you'll ask is like, which one should I buy? So I've got most of the Infinix Note 40 lineup here. I've been using them for the past weeks, and we're gonna clear up the exact differences today and hopefully help you decide which one suits you best. Let's go. Selamat pagi, good morning everyone, Kenneth here, and welcome to my quick breakdown on the Infinix Note 40 series. Now, I've done the full review of the top model, which I'll link here as well as down in the description, and there you can also find my affiliate link that may give me a commission at no extra cost to you, so thank you so much for the support, and as always, you're getting my own honest thoughts here. So, let's get started by breaking down the naming scheme first. There are 4 phones in total, 2 for 4G and another 2 for 5G. So from the cheapest to the most expensive, we got the basic Note 40, then the Note 40 Pro, then the same thing but 5G, and finally the Pro Plus 4G, which is the one I reviewed before. Despite the confusing naming scheme, these are pretty much the same phone. Most importantly, the camera is still the nice 108 megapixel shooter. There's no ultra wide still, and the other 2 lenses are just the 2 megapixel depth sensor and macro lens, which no one cares, but I digress. By standard, all of them has 120Hz AMOLED screen and 20 watts wireless charging support. You also got the inbox magnetic wireless charging pad, and they throw in the super thin wireless power bank as well, so no matter the phone, you're actually getting a good package already. Let's start now with what's different, and I just want to get the cheapest Note 40 4G out of the way. It's actually the only one that has a flat screen, and depending on your preference, this might be the way to go because frankly, it's easier to install screen protectors here, and it's the cheapest of the bunch, selling for a mere $160 in my country, and that's good value for Helio G99. We're gonna talk about the processor a little bit later, but now that we have 3 phones to talk about, these are identical from the outside. All curved screen, very nice to handle, and the only way you can differentiate 4G to 5G is the back design, where with the 4G you get a frosted matte glass back here, which is actually quite slippery, something that the included case fortunately fixes thanks to the faux leather back. I like that brown color too. But then the 5G phones all have what they call vegan leather back here, basically similar to the case but much more textured, much more grippy. It's a more subdued green. This feels very, very nice. And yes, all of them has the active hello lighting on the back. And now you can set it to automatically mute the phone when you put the phone face down. It's just like nothing phones, and I love it. But now let's get into the most important difference. And first is the charging speed. So we have 3 versions here, and this creates a confusion where you pay like $20 more for the Note 40 Pro 5G, but sacrifices charging speed from 70 down to 45. Is it worth it though? Well, I've done a test here. I drained all the phone's battery and started charging at the same time. In the 3 minutes mark, we already got 11% on 70 watts, 8% on 45 watts, and 16% on 100 watts. The room temperature during the test was 26 degrees Celsius, and at this point, all 3 phones are at a cool 30 degrees. Let's say you do an emergency 5 minutes charge, then you'll get 17, 12, and 26% respectively. Nothing too crazy, especially between the 45 and 70 watts we questioned before. At this point, I think the difference is not too crazy between 45 and 70 watts, with 100 watts definitely pulling ahead. Leaving them to charge for 10 minutes now, we see the 70 watt pulls ahead with 32% instead of 22% with 45 watts, and 100 watt charging almost linearly scales twice as fast. Temperatures wise though, the 70 watt is the same as the 100 watts now at almost 33 degrees. It's nowhere near hot territory, but the 45 watts is still chilling at 30 degrees like always. But let me be honest with you, these are great temperatures because with Xiaomi charging solution, they do get very hot up to 45 degrees. Although keep in mind that these phones are turned off, and with the phone on, they usually hover just below 40 instead. Let's keep going to 15 minutes now, and we're almost 50% for the 70 watt, whereas the 45 watt system reaches 33%. 100 watts on the other hand, finally slowing down, although just a tad bit at 61%. We can see these temperatures are the same, except for the 100 watt that increases by 1 degree at 34 degrees Celsius. But what's interesting about these fast charging systems is instead of heating up the phone, the heat would be in the charging brick itself. So the 45 watt charger here is practically chill at 35 degrees, but both the 70 and 100 watt chargers are at 40 degrees Celsius, which is starting to get warm. But yeah, let's skip forward to 20 minutes mark now. And at this point, only the 45 watt system didn't reach 50% yet, while the 70 watt is closing the gap with the 100 watt that's already slowed down, which causes the temperature to decrease by 1 degree again, back to 33 degrees Celsius. At 25 minutes, we almost reached 80% on 70 watt, and finally we got an exact 50% on 45 watts, finally. And on 100 watt, we got almost 90% already, which is insane. And finally, I ended the test at 30 minutes, where we got 82%, 59%, and 98% on their respective charging speeds. The temperature is still at 33 degrees for 70 watt, always chill, 30 degrees for 45 watts, and 32 degrees for the 100 watts because it's really slowing down now. But if I'm honest with you, yes, the charging speed difference between 70 and 45 watts is significant. Like for a typical 50% charge, you'll do 15 minutes instead of 25 minutes. And still, if you want something game changing, then there's no fighting the 100 watt system. It's capable of giving you enough juice when you want to go out and you just remember, oh, I forgot to charge the phone. The downside with this system is instead of having 5,000 milliamp hour, you're only getting 4,600. But yeah, let's quickly move to the second big difference now, where the 4G models uses Helio G99 Ultimate, basically Helio G99 but tweaked a little bit, and 5G uses Dimensity 7020. If you look at the Antutu score here, for the most part, these two chips scored very similarly, except for the slightly faster GPU on the Dimensity. But on Geekbench 6, we can see that the Dimensity slightly pulls ahead in terms of CPU. As we move on to 3D Mark, I noticed something interesting. Both Dimensity phones here does not support Vulkan API, which means I can run only the basic Slingshot Extreme test. I haven't seen any implication of this in real gaming use, but what we can see here, the Helio G99 Ultimate surprisingly pulls ahead just by a smidge compared to the Dimensity chips. And don't mind the Pro Plus on the far right here because it's got a bad run, but it really all boils down to real game tests, right? So let's check the settings available in Mobile Legends, and I found something very interesting here. The 100 watt and 70 watt phone are locked to super ultra setting, which runs at 60 FPS. I'm not sure what happened, since in the past I have played at 90 FPS for the most expensive Pro Plus model here, and I don't see why the Helio G99 couldn't do that as well. But look at this, the 45 watts phone, which is the Pro 5G, actually gives you 120 FPS ultra setting, which is frankly insane. I've made sure these are the latest Mobile Legends installed. They are all the same across the phones, so I don't know what causes this difference. Finally, my last test for productivity is going to be the speedometer. This basically tests the responsiveness of web apps by creating a to-do list, filling them in, and do it all over again in the browser. This affects when you are reading articles, using Canva, and stuff like that. I use the same default Chrome browser for all phones, and we can see that again, we have similar results for Dimensity, which pulls ahead just a smidge compared to the Helio G99, although in daily use I hardly find a difference between the two chips, like seriously. So actually there's one more hidden difference that made me prefer the 5G models, and that is haptic feedback. I cannot show this over a YouTube video, but the 4G model definitely has a smaller vibration motor. Especially when typing, I feel like the feedback is not as distinct, and it's by default less powerful too, although this one can be somewhat fixed by setting the vibration intensity to the max, whereas on the 5G versions, you don't need to do that. They are great already. A quick note for the most expensive Note 40 Pro Plus version, this is the only charger that uses USB-C, and the rest uses USB-A still, but most importantly, the RAM is bigger at 12 gigs compared to 8 gigs for the rest of the lineup. Again, these extra things make little difference, especially when the chip is already mid-range. Sometimes the performance itself deters you from multitasking too much, but those are all the most important differences. Which one do you think is the best mix of features? Let me know in the comments below, and check out my full review of this phone here. If you're looking into buying one, don't forget to use the affiliate link below, and that's gonna be it for me today. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Kenneth, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.